Welcome to the podcast with your favorite cash flow guys, Mike and Blaine. Giving you the best advice while having a beer. When you're running a business, there are problems every day. Let Mike and Blaine help you out and guide your way. Cheers to the good times with Mike and Blaine for business, beer, and BS.
Hey, it's episode 130. I am Mike Milan. That is Blaine Birch. We are Mike and Blaine. Welcome to our show. This is the only show on podcast where you're going to hear about business, you're going to hear about beer, you're going to hear about BS. And there's plenty of BS to go around today. I'm sure you just went to Texas. So, Blaine, what's up, my man?
Yeah, I was saying before we got started here that you're going to have to carry me because my head's a little foggy. We went to the airport from Houston first thing this morning. We just flew in we landed 2 hours ago, and it's been a whole thing. Jetway driver couldn't get it connected. So it's been just a long day. But and Houston freeways are not for the faint of heart in morning rush hour. So, but I'm good. I'm so glad to be back here. Even though I loved Houston, had a great time, packed. Holy cow! It was a packed itinerary while I was there, but it was awesome and ton of fun. So I'm ready to get going this week.
Hey, speaking of, though, you actually hung out. I saw the picture, so I know it happened. You hung out with one of our beer sponsors, right?
Larry Weinstein, Monday night, he sent a picture over to you. We should put it on the Facebook page. I think Larry sent it to me too, so I could drop it up on the Facebook page. So that was super cool. So yeah, Larry, number one of our beer sponsors, and that was super fun. So Larry, if you're listening, it was awesome seeing you, and thanks for the hospitality while I was down there.
There you go. Hey, I don't know. We got so many people that are almost number one, that are number ones. We got four people sponsoring this episode alone. 4 different people just on beers. Is that crazy?
And that's just the beer sponsors. We also have a title sponsor you'll hear about later in the show. But yeah, let's go through some of our other beer sponsors because this is this is huge. 4. I don't know if we've ever had 4 beer sponsors at the same time before.
Yeah, we've had 3 for a while, right? We had 3 that come in and out and like that. Like Rachel went out and then came back in. Why? Yeah. She sees the power of the beer sponsorship, right? We talk about it. Yeah. Like Rachel is at Gentle Frog, and I'm telling you what, I've been watching her Instagram. Her Instagram is killing it, man. I'm telling you what, if you want to know more about QuickBooks and you're looking for a company to help, go to Gentle Frog, and she will teach you how to use QuickBooks. I'm telling you what, so Rachel, I appreciate you being a sponsor. Neighbor Pat, as usual, right? I mean, Neighbor Pat. I got to tell you something. I almost hate to say it.
Did you lose? You lost to Neighbor Pat in cornhole. I know it. I'm kidding.
All right, so I think I'm going to unofficially retire from the game of cornhole. I was 150-0. Right? Meaning I had not lost in 150 straight games. And last weekend, I lost to Pat. I lost, good, right? So I'm going,
good on you, Pat.
Hey, that just means I've lost my skill. My polish is gone. Maybe I'm not as quick as I used to be. I think it's me. My skills are diminished. I got to hang it up, right? So I'm not going to be like Tom Brady and just hang around and take L after L after L. I'm just going to retire.
Maybe it's that bourbon behind you that I know you're gonna mention in a minute here. That could cloud the mind a little bit when you're doing some tossing.
Yeah, hey, that didn't sound very nice. You said I'm doing some tossing. Is that Canadian?
That probably didn't come out quite the way you wanted it, or the way I wanted it to.
Yeah, we're gonna be tossing for diddle hoppers for long. Boom, Steve, you got that in.
Way to work.
All right, so you got Larry, you got Rachel, you got Pat. You know who the next one is?
Mike Milan.
The next one's Mike Milan, right? The Mike Milan. Now, you might, if you're listening to this for the first time, you're going, why are you sponsoring your own show? I'm not. I have a friend also named Mike Milan. And when you said number one sponsor of the show was Larry, I'm going, you didn't see the box. I didn't put it on the internet yet. You did not see the box that I just got. There was enough in this box, and I'm going to put pictures up right after this show. There was enough in this box that he has secured his spot the rest of the year.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Well, thank you, Mike, except thanks for feeding other Mike, because I guess I don't get any of that beer.
You can.
But I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Hey, come to Texas. We'll do a live from the pool. There you go. And you can have some of Mike Blaine's beer.
I maybe should have diverted the flight, but too much going on at once. So anyway.
All right. So, but I'm going to tell you what, when he sent this box, we did an unboxing, right? I think that's what they call those videos. You do an unboxing. And so we did it. We did this whole thing, and he got everything but the sound. How did you record everything but the sound, right? So we've got some great video of me just mouthing words, I guess.
Well, you know what you do. It's an age-old trick. You speed up the video, and then you put a funny song behind it. And it's just like, it looks like you meant to do that, not that you had an audio recording problem.
Benny Hill it. Yeah, you could Benny Hill it. Yeah,
exactly.
There you go. You could Benny Hill it. So anyway, we go through it. He sent me a bunch of pictures from it. And I said, here's what I'll also let you do. I will also let you come up with your own sponsorship statement, things that you want me to say about this thing. So now I reserve full editorial, authority. Is that right? Editorial authority means I can say whatever. This is my show. I got the microphone. You saw the wedding singer. I can say anything I want to, right? So he sent me, I got to read this thing. I got all these deals. So he says, I haven't prepared any official sponsor statements, but you can say this. So this is Mike Blaine's words. So I can say that. And of course, he's talking about me when he says, the much smarter and funnier Mike Blaine. Me, I've got my own podcast, dude. You're just out there in Maryland doing nothing. And he wants everyone to know that Baltimore's Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson was the NFL MVP in 2003, his second time winning the award. His first MVP award came in 2019. Those are just true. That's why I would say it. I'm the funnier, smarter Mike Blaine. That's why I said it on my podcast. What do you think?
I think that's really, for a big fan, he's putting that to good use. So good on you, Mike. That's a good use of sponsorship beer dollars. So
yeah, he just wanted the smarter and funny one to say it. I get it. I mean, he could write it, but I could say it. Right? But here's what he's trying to do to me up front. I'm gonna go ahead and share my beer first. You know DuClaw, right? DuClaw Brewery. DuClaw?
Oh, yeah.
DuClaw, you know them, right? So they're out of Maryland, DuClaw Brewing Company. They have a beer called Unicorn Farts. Remember that one? Unicorn Farts? Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is not Unicorn Farts. This is actually Unicorn Farts After Dark. So he's making me drink Unicorn Farts After Dark. And let me tell you what this is. It is a chocolate cinnamon crunch breakfast stout with golden glitter. So maybe I should get a glass. What do you think? Should I get a glass? Golden
feels
glitter?
Like you need a glass for that one. That feels like you need a glass.
That means I'd have to go get a glass, and you'd have to talk by yourself again. Remember the last time?
Oh, we've tried that before. You'll have to forgive Mike for not getting a glass because last time he just disappeared on me, and then today I'm like my brain's not there. I just I don't know what's the song or something.
Let's just say it's going to be Goldschlager in Stout. It sounds like that's what it's going to be, right? So what do you got? What are you drinking?
Okay, well, so in honor of the topic, which is an AI topic, and we've had different types of AI topics throughout our last 130 episodes. We've touched on it before. We have to keep touching on it because it changes so incredibly fast and it's going to have so much impact on business that we talk about it all the time. And so I went to Great Notion, and you can see this. I've got Serious Robot, which is a hazy IPA from Great Notion. It's got a really cool can with this robotic. I'm not sure if that's a frog or what that is. Alien. But Great Notion makes terrific beer. So really always happy to feature them.
This has almost got a black licorice taste to it.
Oh, nice.
Huh, weird. All right, so I like that. You mentioned that, right? AI, and we have talked about it, but here's the reason why I brought it up again as a topic. Again, if you have not been a fan or not heard Mike and Blaine before, we don't make up the topic till right before the show. So, and Blaine never knows what I'm going to talk about. It just,
Nope.
I mean, he does all the hard work, all the production stuff, and all I do is just make up topics. That's our
try and catch me on a topic too. So that's always fun. But
Yeah.
this is an interesting one. That's topical, so I'm good to go.
All right. So here was the thing. You know, teaching over the university, this is where a lot of my ideas come from, because I'm sitting with, you know, college students, and especially in the entrepreneurship program, they're all coming up with their own ideas of what the next business is going to be. So it's a really cool, like, leading edge type of environment, which means they're out there trying to think of the next big thing. Here's what I'm finding, not only with their ideas in some cases, but in the inspiration companies that they have, a lot of them are gearing, you know, leaning towards AI, right? That's the big thing. And I looked at a list of 152 companies that recently started up that were AI driven, right? Which means they all have something. And I think what I said was most of them are unoriginal and they're copycat ideas of something else. And I'm going to call the something else just Chat GPT, because most of them, what they are fill in the blank prompts, right? Which they're asking you a question, you answer the question. What they're really doing is calling Chat GPT with your prompt, right? They have a prompt set up, you fill in the blank, and then they send it over and give you the return. I'm like, oh, that's really not a business to me. I mean, maybe it is. Maybe you're asking the right questions, but that doesn't seem like it's a long-lived idea. What do you think?
I think there's an enormous opportunity with AI for entrepreneurs to make a massive impact. I think there's two areas you got to be really careful. One of them is, first of all, trying to compete directly with Microsoft, Google, OpenAI, like one of the big Apple, you know, all of that's coming, is a very dangerous sort of place to tread. So you've got to sort of watch and make sure you find your area, but you also have to offer a ton of value. And some of these are it feels a little bit like a lot of them could be they've come up with an answer and they're sure as hell trying to find a problem to solve.
Yeah,
and
right?
It doesn't really solve a problem. It's like, it's the opposite. And that never works. Never works.
You have to be more than a prompt template. Mm-hmm. I think you can't just say, here's the right questions to answer for this type of, like the one I'm thinking about is a grant writer. Well, there's so many different grants and they ask so many different questions. Just because, you know, I'm following your prompts doesn't mean I'm going to have a great grant response. The other thing I'm worried about is that if I use a grant writing AI tool, do I lose my genuineness? Do I lose authenticity? Because you got to remember, AI draws from a database of inputs from other people. There's a point in time when there's a consensus that this is a good answer, and it's going to give it to everybody.
Yep. Yep.
Right? We're all going to have the same answer from the AI.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's an enormous problem. But you know, like the what you're even talking about there, it feels to me like you're already 2 years behind. Like you'll never catch up with something like that. Well, maybe we have to give them a prompt. Well, if that's a genuine problem, OpenAI, Microsoft, they're so far ahead of you with something like that, because all they're trying to do now is go, okay, how do we improve usability of AI? How do we improve adoption of AI? How do we okay, here's a problem for adoption of AI. I was at an event. One of the things I was doing in Houston, I was at an event. The speaker there was actually talking about AI, and it was from Microsoft, and it was really interesting because the people that had seen his last talk a year ago, they were saying like it was actually something like 9 months ago. They said it's completely different. In 9 months, it is completely different. And a lot of the problems he was talking about is, how do you put sort of guidelines around use of AI in business. And one of the biggest sort of barriers to businesses adopting AI is how do you put on constraints? How do you have restrictions, guidelines, policies, systems, everything to make sure that people aren't just sort of diving in and doing damage? Because like you've said, like you can ask AI a question, and you know what? If the prevailing thought is wrong, AI is going to be wrong. It's not smart enough to discern, like but you know what I'm saying? Like it grabs all this information, and it to some degree can tend to water it down. It's not always right, I guess is what I'm saying. So there's got to be a lot of structure. So just kind of giving someone a prompt, to me, doesn't sound like a business, and it sounds like something that could be upended overnight when Google says, yeah, we just released this. We're going to give you some prompts. Like, you're done.
Yeah.
Over.
Yeah, that's right. Chat GPT will have what are you trying to do? I'm trying to write a grant. And then it will just have all these questions for you to fill out. I mean, that's a business that's going to fail really fast.
Oh, well, if you ask Chat GPT and said, what questions should I be asking for grant? It's going to give you, and it's going to take a lot of, from everywhere, all of the sources out there.
Hey, you know what people are probably doing right now? They're going to the grant and going copy, paste stuff the grant. Here's the shit they need to know. Paste it in Chat GPT and says, hey, help me answer these questions. And then they're massaging it to meet their, meet their own situation.
And the fact is, there's nothing wrong with that, because actually there's a couple things I want to say. One of them is, if you're using a tool like that, just make sure that you're reading every single letter that it gives you.
That's right.
Very carefully, but also very critically, so that you make sure that it's actually on point with what you mean, and then give it a really good edit. But think about this. The grant proposal is probably better. There's a good chance it's better for both you and for the person reading the proposal, because chat or AI is going, here's some stuff they probably need to know about your business in your grant proposal or your organization. And it probably helps to make sure that you're actually getting your message across.
Yeah. Well, just make sure you can do it. Because I've done it with Cash Flow Mike. I'm like, I can't do that. It tells me what I should be able to do. And I'm like, yeah, that's not what I do. That's not what I can do. So you're right. Yeah. There has to be a level of critique. There has to be a critical eye you got to put on everything they put out. I mean, my colleague over at the Trinity University, Matt Glazer, he was on a couple different presidential campaigns, right? That's kind of his world, campaigns. He was like John Kerry and somebody, maybe Howard Dean, right? So he was that guy then. The thing is, when you go Google his profile, not Google, Chat GPT his profile, sometimes he's a jazz musician. Sometimes he's won an Emmy on TV. He's looking at it like, going, "What? I didn't do any of those things." So if that's him at that high profile and it's still making mistakes, what's it going to do with just regular information? It's going to be way off sometimes, and I know that.
Yeah. Sometimes it'll be way off, and I think there's places where it can be like exactly like if you're writing a grant, you could fit that in and say, like, what are the things that I need to cover? Like, what do people, or what are they looking for? What questions should I ask? That's, you might, 90% will probably be like, oh yeah, I knew that. Might be 5% where you're like, no, that's stupid. And then there'll be 5% where it's like, that might have got me the grant because I just never thought about making sure that I address this question that they probably have or whatever. So I think when it's used right, it can be incredibly powerful. When it's used wrong, it can be like, what do they say now? Like the amount of information on the web right now, content that's actually AI created is staggering. But I would say a lot of it's not very good right now. Like AI is not creative. It's not good at creative, right?
Well, here's one of the areas I think it can be the most beneficial: healthcare. I'm telling you, it can do it better. It can. It doesn't. It can, because you would get a standardized level of healthcare across the country by like going, hey, this is the best practice. This is what you should be looking for. And maybe give you some options on if you see A, B, or C, because not everybody's got the same body.
Yeah.
But I guess, back in, 2019, 20, when they tested it, it was given like crazy methodology for cancer. And so the whole medical community went, no, we're not doing that. We're not putting like battery acid in our face or what. That's not what it said, but I'm just, exaggerating. But it's one of those things like going, what if it was right? Based on all the information you fed it, and everybody in the world goes, that's dumb. We would never do that. Yeah. And what if it was right? What if it was right and we poo-pooed it?
Yeah, because it's just gathering more data. Like, it's amazing that the number of people recently that have had conversations with, like literally in the last couple of weeks, where they said, where it comes from is when the Waymo was burned in San Francisco. I don't know if you heard about that. Like this group.
The Waymo. What's a Waymo?
The Waymo is a self-driving car that was in San Francisco.
Okay.
Basically like an Uber, but there's no driver. And I guess apparently some people didn't like it and trashed it and burned it to the ground, which is not good, not what you want to see. But nobody was in it. It was just the car, right? But then based on that, I think it raised the profile a little bit. And I've heard a couple of people say there's no way I would ever get in a self-driving car. They'll never take over. And I've taken the Waymo a couple of times. And I'll tell you, I was a little nervous getting in the backseat of the Waymo because I'm like, I feel a little, will I feel safe in this thing, right? And within 100 feet, I went, oh my God, when are they going to get Waymos all the way up to our place? Because it's just sort of in downtown Scottsdale and Phoenix. Yeah. So I'm like, this thing's awesome. Like the car is beautiful. It's awesome. It does a terrific job of driving. It knows everything else is around it. And I will say that a lot of the Uber drivers lately that I've had have been less than stellar. So their bar seems to be getting lower. But the interesting thing is, like, I look at this Waymo, and if anything goes wrong with one, it's front page news. Like if it gets stuck somewhere, it's front page news. But it's learning. You can't say that about the drivers. It's learning every single mile, every single kilometer on that car. It learns, and they've done millions of miles, and they already know because they've done so many millions of miles. They're 7 times safer than a human-driven car. Like it's not even close, right? Can you imagine taking all of the driver fatalities and injuries in the United States and cutting them down to 1/7 that you see now? Like, can you see the impact just on the medical costs in medical, let alone the human costs, right? But this is very, very early, and it's learning every single mile it drives. And I looked at that, and I'm such a convert now because I'm like, oh my God, this thing is getting smarter,
I'm all for it, right? Because I do think that ultimately, and this is a former state trooper, right? I'm all for it. I'm not going, because I've seen some of you drive. Again, former state trooper, right? Like
talking to you, Houston. I was on those last few days.
I'm gonna tell you what. If you get on a Texas roadway, the gas pedal it should be down, because if you don't put it down, you're gonna be scared because everybody's gonna be flying around you doing all kinds of stuff.
Oh yeah. No, I keep up with traffic. And you know what? I think that's one of the biggest things that I'm not sure how they're going to deal with it with a car like a Waymo. Waymo doesn't go on the freeways. I think I've seen them testing, but they don't drive people on the freeways. And I think the reason is because they can't exceed the speed limit. Well, you're going down the 202 or the 101 here. And there's construction, and it doesn't seem to matter here if it's construction. So it's like goes down to 55, and people still drive 85. And like, you don't want to be the one little electric car that self-driving in the middle of going 55, right?
Hey, it's just like you can't have an AI toothbrush. There's no way you're going to have an AI driven highway driver as long as you let humans drive on the same road. They could have a lane. They could have a lane. Yeah. There could be a perfect symmetry of zipping and all that type of stuff with AI, but not with humans involved at the same time.
I think it's good. Well, they do it in traffic. They do it in traffic all the time, and they do it really well. The highway, it's the speed differential that I think is a problem. But
when normally you could just merge because everybody's going 65, 75, 85.
Yeah. I'm sure they'll figure it out. I'm sure they'll find a way. But with the upside is so massive that they'll find a way. People are so bad at driving. That's the other thing. People are so bad at driving that they have to find a way.
So as a trooper, I occasionally pull people over for going too slow and impeding the flow of traffic. That's a weird thing. Like it was most notably in Missouri with tractors. Somebody would come out on a 2-lane road in a tractor to get from one field to the next, but they'd have to go, we'll say, I don't know, 3 miles, 5 miles. But they have to travel that far on the roadway.
Yep.
And traffic behind them would pile up another 2 miles, 3 miles. Because they couldn't get around as a 2-lane road. So in order to relay traffic, you got to go up and stop the tractor and make him pull over the side.
Yeah. And, and that's part of the problem why they shouldn't call it a speed limit. They should call it the speed you're going to freaking drive at. Because that's the other, that's a big safety issue as well, right?
Hey, do you know I arrested somebody for DWI doing that?
Oh, really?
Isn't that funny? Like all I was trying to do was just it was like 3:00 in the afternoon. It wasn't even dark out.
Yeah.
And all I did was pull over a tractor, a John Deere tractor on the roadway in Missouri. And the guy was drunk, right? 3:00 in the afternoon, drunk. All I was trying to do was clear traffic. I wasn't trying to arrest a drunk driver. I was just trying to all he had to do was not go on the roadway. He had an off-road vehicle.
Yeah, bizarre.
Huh. I don't know how many times I could be wrong. It's like going bald. I made fun of my grandpa because he was going bald, and guess who went bald next? Me, right? So I made fun of Magic Mind, meaning it's not going to work. I was wrong. So every time I say stuff, I'm wrong. But this stuff, I took it in the morning with the coffee. I thought it was going to taste bad. It didn't. It tasted like those little hugs, those little Kool-Aid things that we used to have as kids. Not quite fruity, but kind of a fruit taste, like just a mellow. I don't know, just a mellow taste. No aftertaste. It just tasted good. Then I went into a productivity period of about 6 hours, where nothing could disturb me, nothing could disrupt me, nothing could get in my way. I powered through so many projects that have been sitting there. I mean, things that I was like, I'll do that later. No. I was doing it right then. I'm like, yeah, give me that. I was taking on every single project. This Magic Mind stuff that we're talking about on this podcast, our title sponsor, I'm a believer. you should be a believer. Blaine, how do they get it?
All right. Go to magicmind.com/BBBS for business, beer, and BS. So magicmind.com, BBBS. And you can get up to 56% off your subscription for the next 10 days with our code capital B, capital B, capital B, capital S 20. And let me explain how this works. So your code will be valid forever as a 20% off for both a one-time purchase and subscriptions. But in the first 10 days, it's up to 56% off if applied to a subscription. So it stacks the subscription discount from the website for up to 56% off on the 30-pack subscription. So go check out magicmind.com, BBBS, and capital B, capital B, capital B, capital S 20 as the code.
Nice, man. Hey, I'm gonna tell you what. Let's talk just a little bit more about these AI things, because there's some great ideas, and I've also heard some dumb ideas, things that I don't think AI can help at all. So, what do you think are some of the best uses right now? If you're saying it may not exist today, but it could exist in the future, what are some great uses?
Well, I think I am going to mention some of the things we've already talked about, because I think they are the reason they came up for us is because they're so important, and safety and healthcare. Now, we talked about driving cars and 7 times more safe. You're talking about healthcare, but think about how much further this can go when there's these massive data sets that can be used, and you can start to look at what other things. What other areas are underserved, and that's where those pockets of innovation are that you could use AI to help somebody in one of those two realms. I think is a phenomenal opportunity.
All right. So one of the things I haven't heard anybody talk about, and I'm sure somebody's working on it today, I think if you take weather data, and we already have some models that work, but overlay that with AI and then predict emergency response on top of it, which means that the AI is helping coordinate the weather and the response. So you don't have to rely on some individual making a call like, yeah, go, right? Because sometimes that's what the delay is. Sometimes that's where the problem is the delay in response because somebody has to make a call. The fire in Hawaii, somebody has to make a call.
Yeah.
Let's stop doing that. Let's no, go. I mean, let's let data drive the decision come on. If Burger King can put it into the POS, right? Which means they know labor dollars per hour, right? And they compare it against revenue per hour. You should have 3 employees. You should have 5 employees. You should have this. We can definitely predict emergency response.
Interesting. Yeah. Not an area I've thought about, but I get it, especially when it's weather related. But maybe there's other things that's not maybe just weather, right? Like, I almost don't want to say any of this because I'm like, aren't they already doing this? Like, I'll say like the weather forecasts in themselves, to me, seem to have gotten dramatically more accurate in the last 5 years. Like, you don't make fun of them like you used to, because they're bang on weeks out.
Hey, well, let me throw something out there that people might just explode their minds over. What if we used it to validate climate change and said, do these things? How do I fix it? Right? You feed it all the data that we have. People that are for it or against it, doesn't matter. The computer's going to tell us what's the best thing that we know from science that we know. What's the best thing that contributes, the biggest thing that contributes to it, and the best thing we can do to fix it?
I guess that
somebody has to have done that, right?
That's the thing, that I think anything that we can come up with, I suspect, is already being done. And
okay, but are we going to know
experts
about
in all of these different?
Are we going to know
experts? Well, but that's the thing, is that's where AI is becoming ubiquitous, right? So any business on the planet or organization that's dealing with all these different issues, they're already doing something with AI, and they're already, I'm sure, looking at the potential of how they can make use of it. I think that's, you know what, one of the most dangerous things of being diving into entrepreneurship in AI. It's really a tricky balance, because you better do your homework, because it's probably already being done and you might be 10 miles behind before you even start. And AI moves so fast that you just don't have time to catch up. I think I can see that. I think I can see businesses like kind of diving in and going, oh, we're going to solve this problem. And it's like, they're already doing that. They're already 10 miles ahead, and you're done before you even hit the starting gate. One of the quotes I heard was, I think ChatGPT was the fastest adoption of any tech product in history. And I think it was 100 million users in 90 days. There's been nothing even remotely like that. And that's just ChatGPT. ChatGPT is one little kind of AI service. So I suspect that it's being used in so many places right now we're not familiar with. You'd have to literally go in and dig and find out how deep it's got already.
All right, so I heard Dr. Phil talking. Somehow on the radio or otherwise, or TV, I heard him talking. And he mentioned some things that I think might pertain. I don't know if it could help or not help. He was talking about prior to the Industrial Revolution, right? So we're talking like early 1900s, late 1800s, right? When things became mechanized, the train, the factory, those type of things. That 85% of the U.S. population was rural and was agricultural based. And they did family farms, right? So the family unit was closed because they just worked to provide. They just worked to grow their crops, sell their crops, whatever it is. They just worked to provide. The Industrial Revolution caused everybody to kind of move to the city and out of the country, right? So it came, I guess, but anyway, they moved to the city, and with that, they lost the agricultural production because of it, right? So think about that. That happens in the early 1900s. Then there was nothing that really impacted society again like that, right? That a major shift in the way we operate as a human being until 2008, 2009. You know what happened then?
It's pretty late for the internet. What happened in 2008, 2009?
The invention of the smartphone.
Gotcha.
That was the next cultural shift as a society, where we stopped being, again, what we did, looking up, paying attention to what we were doing in our cities, making our stuff, to being alone. That was the spike in depression. That was the spike in suicide rates. It didn't matter. Not every, but I'm just saying most mental problems that we are dealing with today spiked in 2008, 2009, and they're attributing it now to the smartphone. Now, when you're saying with AI, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to jump in there and go, like, I would like to see where that comes down to the whole correlation doesn't necessarily indicate causation, because remember, that was a bloody recession, so there's also the plain old fact that people, probably had money stress, right? So can they attribute it to it? I don't know. I'm a little skeptical that they could have that, especially with Dr. Phil.
They're not talking about exactly. They're talking about a whole society shift. The shift happened after the cell phone was, or not cell phone, the smartphone was introduced. I mean, it wasn't just a big spike and then it came down. It's like over time went up and again shifted the whole human race. Okay. It shifted the human race. How about that?
Yeah. Okay.
right? Which means it isn't instantaneously. It's like that's the next big change in how humans interact with each other.
Yeah. No, and the question, and I don't know if they'll be able to really, again, attribute it to, is it the hardware, or is it literally the information that people are getting? Because the information, like I think people thought the internet would be used for something very different when it went the first few years after its inception. I think it felt like it would be very different. It's like, hey, people will be empowered. They'll be smarter. How could they not? They have all of history, science and history at their fingertips. And I think we can agree that it's somehow got dumber. Like so in some ways it's been like this incredible kind of advantage and opportunity. And I think that's what we'll see with AI is there'll be some things that are absolutely amazing, but then there's going to be the dark side, the flip side. And there'll be some real dark stuff.
Yeah, but the dark side of the smartphone now is we're looking at it and we're not living life like we did prior to the smartphone. We're watching other people live a life that we don't even know is true. People fake a photo. People, I mean, I heard a story about a company in LA that schedules their private jet in 15-minute increments where you can go in and do photo shoot for 15 minutes in the private jet.
It's a smart little money maker there.
From a business perspective, it's great. From a present my life to the world where I'm faking my private jet trip, it actually impacts other people that are seeing it, because I see other people like going, holy shit, they're 23 years old and they're flying in private jets and they got these new clothes and they're doing this, that, and the other. Maybe they got the new clothes and they're going to return them right afterwards after the photo. Mm-hmm. I now think my life sucks because of what I saw on the internet. I'm not there. I'm not as good as others. And that's a big problem.
So, yeah, but there's the answer, I think, to that is, well, you're not going to get rid of phones. You're not going to get rid of idiots that share stupid shit on the internet.
Yeah.
So how do you give people much better discernment, much more skills to actually discern what's true, what's not, what's like I've said for years now,
Could
like
AI tell a fake?
Well, AI might tell a fake, but people won't believe it.
I would. I'm like going, yeah, there's a big frowny face on this photo.
Do you believe it now? Like, and the other thing is, do you really care? Like, do you really care? Are you following any of these? Like, what?
I have flown on a private jet twice, and that was to Kansas from Missouri and from Kansas to Missouri. And it was just because I was traveling with a general that one weekend. That was it. Not me. Yeah. Now, I'm not part of it. That's my total private jet experience. And if I wouldn't have known that general, I wouldn't have. I would say I've never been on a private jet.
Yeah, but what I'm talking about is giving people the ability to make a judgment call. And I don't think that's around anymore. I firmly believe that a couple things that are missing from that I think that should be from kindergarten through to the time you graduate university. A couple of things. One that we talk about all the time is finance, especially personal finance, because I think that would help people immensely. But the other one is debate class, because I think they're draining away the ability for people to have basically critical thinking skills and to make decisions, to be able to discern. And I think having to debate both sides of all sorts of different topics, I think help people see bullshit. That's what we're trying to do, is see bullshit and not just follow a leader, right? And so when you see bullshit, because these influencers aren't going to influence you and I, right?
Yeah,
like they're not, but they're influencing some people, and I think that the people aren't being trained or being equipped in a way that they need to deal with this overwhelming fire hose of information and content. I just don't think that that's being dealt with.
You've probably seen the same graffiti that says question everything. That's the best advice you can give anybody right now. It's like, oh, does that seem right? Does it pass the smell test? Does it pass the reasonable test? Chances are, if it doesn't, it's not right. I'm not saying everything's not right. I'm just saying chances are it's not. If you can't make a logical connection that that's probably happening, like the private jet pick, like some of the stuff that I'm seeing out there. Here's the thing. There are some jobs, I think, out there that will never, that's a weird word to say never, but I'm going to say it, never be taken over by AI.
Well, okay, I want to add on to that, because there's this massive fear that AI will take over the world and take over everybody's jobs. And there's the same fear about the internet.
Yeah.
And it somehow made more jobs. And they'll change. And I think with AI, they could change immensely, massively, dramatically. But will jobs go away, or will people be using AI as a tool? I think the jobs will transform quite a bit. They could change dramatically. And maybe this sort of promise will actually lighten the load. But I don't think it'll I'm not confident it's going to play out the way some of the fear factor people kind of think it's going to play out.
The thing is that it's so one-dimensional. It can't tell me how something tastes. It can't tell me how something smells or feels. It can't.
Things that I don't know if AI will ever be able to match a human in some areas, because it's just, there's some things it's not good at. Like think of an abacus to a calculator. Like, the calculator did not replace math. They replaced equations, but look at how much more advanced the thought got once you have a calculator, because now all of a sudden everybody they don't have to do the basic stuff. And that's a lot of what I think we're seeing, is that even with writing things, there's obviously people that are lazy, they'll just dump garbage out. But for people that don't, what you're looking at is you as a person can put your time into the most important parts of stuff, is like getting my vision, my ideas out there, and less time on the grunt work, because that's not the important stuff. It's the ideas that are important, not typing. Typing is not a skill that we should be overly impressed with today.
Dude, I mean, that's really good. So one of the things I took away from that was abacus to calculator, we'll say. We've talked about this on this podcast, which is there are very few, if any, new original ideas. They're all an iteration of something else, right?
Oh, yeah. Iteration on something else. And for you guys out there that are contemplating a startup, there's 1,000 people with the same bloody idea this second. There'll probably be a small handful that will actually take the next step to trying to do it. And then it all comes down to execution. So I think people, we've talked about this a million times, people really overvalue an idea. That's just the prereq. And the idea, it's not an idea, it's recognizing a problem, and you have a rational solution to it, and then it's all execution. That's what's going to be the difference between succeeding and not.
All right, so totally agree. I mean, execution is all. So I'm going to go to something super dumb. What is the dumbest AI idea you can think of?
Oh man, Don't know if I can think of.
All right, so the only reason I brought this up is that we were talking about emotions. We're talking about all that. I'm like going, and I thought about this because like people talk about pet therapist, right? Like trying to get their pet to, I don't know, not be anxious. You know, that's why they have thunder coats and all this type of stuff. What if you made a device that played a sound that got their attention, and then a pet therapist talked to them because they could, because the pet was anxious, and AI understood the anxiety level of the pet and helped it. Now that's a good idea. That's dumb at the same time.
Well, and the sad part is there probably is a window where people can make a lot of money off of that, because there is a market of pet owners that would spend that kind of money. Because it's amazing, again, with the amount of information we have today, how much snake oil is sold. Like, there's probably more than ever in history people buying dumb shit that doesn't do anything.
Oh, I'm telling you, that's one of the things I think AI has taken and expanded on. It's opened up. That's why I started off with the copycat stuff, where I'm just like going, there's not an original idea there. It's a copycat of what you can already do on ChatGPT. It's a copycat of what Chad and Chelsea already do for us.
Yeah. Here's one where I think would be, and you mentioned it, like an AI can't taste. And I would be interested, I'd be really curious if AI could make good beer by only analyzing recipes. I'm talking no cheating. They don't get feedback from people.
Yeah.
They have to, if AI had to make beer on its own, no feedback from people, could it make a good beer?
Hey, I'm going to ask Chelsea here at the end of the show, what would the best tasting beer in the world taste like?
This is going to be one of those ones where, well, I can't really tell you, but let me tell you. They always do that. They love doing that.
So Chelsea.
By the way, that's what we refer to. Used to be producer Chad, but then we changed it to Chelsea. That's Chad. That's our Chat GPT.
Well, no, remember Chad was 3.5.
Oh yeah, no. Chelsea is the 4.0. Chelsea's the smart Chat GPT. Yes, you're right.
Oh shoot. Well, it's giving me all this aroma, appearance, taste stuff. I'm like, nah. I'm going to say, tell me in a sentence.
Ask it what his favorite beer is.
Oh, yeah. I will too. But it's saying, hey, I would greet you with a complex and inviting aroma, blending the freshness of hops with a spectrum of scents. I don't want to know that. Tell me in a sentence. It's 3 paragraphs of what the perfect beer would taste like. Oh, 4 or 5 paragraphs.
But that's a really interesting thing, because don't you think it would just be homogenized? Whatever AI does has to be homogenized, because it's taking all this information into a pool and spinning it up. It's not giving you edge cases, right?
Shit, check this out. All right, so a harmonious blend of subtle malt sweetness, nuanced hop bitterness with hints of citrus and pine, and a clean, crisp finish that invigorates the palate. So, hey, let's think about that.
No, but it literally just homogenized its answer. It has hops, it has goods, it has crispness, that's literally what it did. But not the best beers in the world tend to be down one path. They're the best instance of something that's super hoppy or really malty and rich. But when you homogenize it and try and touch on everything, you'll end up with the Homer mobile from, I know you remember that from Simpsons.
Yeah. So there it is, though. I don't know what that tastes like. I think I know what citrus and pine would be. I don't know what it tastes like. I can't figure that out. The other thing is, when I asked her what her favorite beer was, I don't have personal experiences, so I don't have a favorite beer. I can provide you with recommendations based on your specific criteria.
See that, and that's we're bringing out the like the things that it's not good at. So there's areas where it's good at. There's things that it's just simply not good at, but this is something that AI. See, AI is like they always talk about these massive data sets. So AI, will it ever be good at anything? But like can it do something small? Can it do the edge case? Can it do something truly innovative that hasn't been thought of? Because what it'll do is it tends to grab everything and lukewarm, make a stew, and that's all you'll get out of it.
Can it be us? Yeah. What makes us us? So, hey, speaking of us, if you want to see more of us, hear more of us, you can go to mikeandblaine.com, where not only can you be one of our beer sponsors, all you got to do is buy us a beer. $5 an episode. You get mentioned. You get talked about. Come on. Where can you get that at? And you can buy our merch. I mean, you can't see it on me right now, but I've got one of our Mike and Blaine t-shirts on right now. And it's our new logo designed by Blaine Birch himself. What else can we tell them about our stuff?
Make sure you subscribe, follow, share, like. Make sure you don't miss any of our episodes. We're on your favorite podcast network. You can also watch us on YouTube, and you'll see us post on LinkedIn and Facebook and everywhere else as well. Join us on our Facebook page, and you can see the video of Mike's big grand beer opening.
There you go. Hey, appreciate you. Appreciate you listeners. I don't think I've ever thanked the listeners, but we appreciate you. I appreciate it.
Check out their website at mikeandblaine.com. Then subscribe to the podcast and buy these guys a beer.